Hi guys, welcome to part 2 of our angle relationships notes.
Ashton Doherty.
Okay.
Ashton Doherty to the front office, please.
If you are working from home, of course, you can write this on a piece of paper. Otherwise, if you are working in class and you have your notes with you, just use the bottom half of the paper. Okay, and let's start off with putting in our colors. So I'm going to use my highlighter and I am going to highlight the transversal. If you remember from our last video what the transversal was. A transversal is a line that crosses at least two other lines. Okay, so there are a couple of transversals here, but let's highlight this blue transversal. You don't have to make it as wide as I did, but just lightly highlight that blue transversal. There's another transversal here, though. The orange line is also a transversal, and you might want to highlight that with either orange or yellow, whatever you have at your desk, or whatever color you want to use at home. Okay, but it's cool if you just draw with a pencil too. All right, so that transversal cuts through two lines, right? Okay, and if you remember correctly from the last video, these two lines, that orange line and that blue line, they meet at a right angle, at a 90-degree angle. So those two lines are perpendicular. Let's add another angle in here. Okay, let's just add one with our pencil. We're going to call this
Ariana Allen to the front office, please.
number 9 and number 10. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. All of those different angles there, okay? So angles 9 and angles 10 are adjacent angles. We're going to define that in a minute, but for the time being, let's just understand that adjacent angles, they share a common side, okay? This gray line here, that's a common side, and they share a common vertex. So this right here is the vertex of the angle, right? Okay, so angles 9 and 10 share a common side and a common vertex, and the sum of these two angles is 90 degrees. So if we total up these two angles here, and I'm going to highlight this in blue, from here to here, and I should erase that just a little bit. Let's make it more accurate, right? From there to there, all the way around is 90 degrees. These two angles are called complementary angles. So there's our first term, complementary angles, okay? And they total 90 degrees, okay? So complementary angles, and I'm going to highlight it in blue, total 90 degrees. Not angles 9 and 10 are complementary, okay? Now, when two angles total 180 degrees, and I'm going to look at number 5 and 6. Number 5 and 6, ooh, let's use a different color. Let's use orange, okay? Angles 5 and 6 here, all the way around. Okay. Angles 5 and 6, they're 180 degrees together, right? They're also adjacent angles. They share a common side and a common vertex. Here's their vertex right here. Okay, and those are called supplementary angles. I'll help you spell it. Supplementary angles. Supplementary angles. Oh, let's not mark it out. Let's use our highlighter. supplementary angles, they total 180 degrees. Okay, and I'm going to highlight that in orange so that it coordinates as well. Supplementary angles. So angles 5 and 6 are supplementary. I left off my degree symbol. And let's put angle 5 and angle 6 here so that we can remember when we check our notes later. Okay, and complementary angles, we have angle 9 and angle 10 are complementary. Okay, when angles are supplementary, they form what's called a linear pair. And angles 1 and angle 2 do that. You see how that green line, that's a straight line, and angle 1 and angle 2 are next to each other. So another word for supplementary angles is a linear pair. A linear pair of angles is two adjacent, you know what, that's really messy, Miss Rowe. My handwriting's getting bad. Let me back up the bus a little. A linear pair of angles is two adjacent angles that total 180 degrees. So it's just another word for supplementary angles. Let's come back, and I'm also going to highlight linear pair here so that I know that these two angles, angle 1 and angle 2, form a linear pair. Okay, angles 5 and 6 also form a linear pair, and they are supplementary. Okay, we can put a note up here though, if you'd like to do that. Angle 1 and angle 2 form a linear pair. If you'd like to go back with your highlighter again and highlight that term, linear pair, because there's our vocabulary term. Are you with me? Okay. One more. Now, I know we already talked about what an adjacent angle is, but let's put our definition down here. Adjacent angles, and all of these pairs of angles that we talked about here were adjacent, okay? 9 and 10, they're adjacent. 5 and 6, they're adjacent. 1 and 2, they're adjacent. There are lots of adjacent angles here. They share a common side, and a common vertex. Now, the ones we've talked about here, these complementary angles, supplementary angles, and a linear pair, they're just special kinds of adjacent angles. And we should probably highlight that vocabulary word too. Why not? In green, since it's related to a linear pair, we also have adjacent angles in there in that definition. Complementary angles and supplementary angles are also both adjacent angles though. Thanks, kids.